Good morning. Hi, everyone. Okay, so I got this member question this morning and I felt really inspired to make this video. And the member was just asking, like, how did I get into my spiritual journey, specifically shamanism, and was there anything before that? And also, like, how did I kind of grow and learn throughout the journey? Okay. So I thought this could be a really fun topic because I don't think I've ever really laid it out before. And when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, duh. Like this is such a part of my story. And I just think I haven't fully articulated it. And I think maybe if I tell my story, it will also give you permission or some sort of template for you to see like how everybody's unfolding is like weird and strange and wacky and like is not linear. And if you're on your own spiritual journey, if you are currently in the process of your unfolding, this would be a great video to watch so that you can just see what someone else's experience is, see how that might mirror your own, or see how, really just to give yourself permission, because the unfolding can get kind of messy. And that is really the point. So I've always been attracted to the spiritual and the mystical, and I didn't grow up with any religion, which was fine. I never felt like I was like missing out or anything, but it just meant that in terms of theology and in terms of how I believe the world works, I didn't have a specific framework. So today I would say I'm like an all out kook. Like I'm totally like in the deep end with this stuff, but I would say it did not always start out that way. But if I look back and look at all of the things I was interested in, even in like middle school, high school, I would see like it's always been there. I mean, I was like, when I was in middle school, I was really into like tarot cards. I had a lot of books on like dream interpretation, dream analysis. I remember in high school, I was very interested in psychology, but specifically like I was interested in like Freudian and Jungian dream analysis. And so I think I've always been drawn towards those kind of non-ordinary states, right? Where when I was like in middle school and would do like sleepovers and stuff, I was always like, like I loved like Ouija board. I loved like stiff as a board, light as a feather, like all that kind of like kiddie occult stuff. I was like, like I just loved it. So definitely don't be afraid to like look back at your own history and be like, what were some of the things that were pointing me towards specific modalities or specific interests? I think what you'll find as you explore this is there are really deep communities of people who have the same interests as you. And I would say, like, I don't even know where the idea of like mainstream comes from, because all my friends are into this too. And also, like, when you get a little deeper into these studies, like if you're in a program, even if it's like a weekend workshop or something like that, like you're gonna find your people. You will. And they're out there. And maybe it's just now because of like the intentional circles that I'm in, all I see are people who are also interested in this same thing. And every time I tell someone like, oh yeah, like I did this program in shamanism, like they come out of the woodwork. So just as a reassurance to you that no matter where you are on your journey, like you're gonna find your people. There are so many of them out there. My friend Anastasia like used to say that, it was sort of like coming out of the spiritual closet. Like how like everybody thinks you're normal, and then you are like, actually, I'm really, really woo-woo. And like being comfortable stepping out into that, especially if you are, posting on Instagram, posting on LinkedIn, it's like, how much do I share? And I think that you'll find like it's actually pretty safe. I don't think that there's a lot of, I don't know, hate out there. Okay, so then I would say like 2015 is probably, so like 10 years ago is probably when it really began for me. And I think that there is this process of like stepping into your spiritual power and formalizing it. At least that's how it unfolded for me. So the first thing that I did in like 2015 was I was living in New York City, and there was a place, I think it physically still exists, but I don't think it's called this anymore. It was called the New York Open Center, and they literally had like a catalog of things that you like, classes, certifications, things that you could do. I signed up for, I think it was a 8-week in-person tarot reading course. And I just felt so cool because I would like, it was on 23rd Street, and I would like take the train. I would take the 6th train to 23rd Street. And then I'd have my little, notebook and pen. And I would have my deck of, Rider-Waite tarot cards. And we learned from this instructor who was actually like a designer of tarot cards. And I was so interested because the approach he took was very academic. So he trained us on the background of tarot cards, the history of them, their origin, how they've evolved, what each card means, like the whole thing. And then throughout the class, he would show us like the different spreads and, why you might use one spread over another. And then the class culminated in us like working in pairs and going through and like reading each other's, just like doing a reading for your partner, which I also thought was very cool because I feel like until you've stepped into your spiritual authority, like it feels a little weird to be like, like who am I to like read your tarot? You know what I mean? But I think just doing that in a formalized way made me feel less insecure about it, and also allowed me to just be like, hell yeah, like, this isn't just like scientific. Like I'm also reading the energy, I'm reading the cards, and I'm putting those things together to try to tell a story, essentially. So all of this was, I should give some context. So all of this was unfolding at the same time as, I would say, my like mental breakdown. So I was the co-founder of a startup in New York City, and this was like the biggest deal in the world for me. And I just threw everything in it. Like, I'll give you an example. There is this investor in New York, and he was like a famous investor. And for some reason, I just like fixated on like getting him to invest in our company. And I literally was like praying, and I'm not religious. Okay. I'm sitting there praying, making a deal with the gods, being like, if you let him be our investor, like I will do anything. I will literally do anything. And I think the gods were like, okay, girl, chill, because he did not become an investor. But when I say that like my heart and soul was in this company, I mean it. Like I was literally bargaining with the heavens to be like, can you please bring so-and-so onto our board? Can you please have this person invest in our company? That's how badly and desperately I wanted it to succeed. And I think ultimately it was that energy that like led to my freaking downfall, like I just like wanted it too hard. I was driving too fast. I feel like I had my foot on the gas and I was going like 100 miles an hour. By the way, I also was like pregnant for the first time during this time. Do not recommend. I was so stressed out. I was so physically exhausted. I felt so much guilt because I also was like, oh, I'm supposed to be running this company and now I'm having this baby, but there's no good time to have a baby. And like, I feel guilty, towards the baby. I feel guilty towards the company. Like, I was just like a actually nervous fucking wreck. And like, nothing was helping me because I just kept like driving myself into the ground. And they say it's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I was just like a raw bone on the floor. I was so ready. I had, if we zoom out, and maybe you're in this situation now, like I was just chasing, but really chasing the wrong thing. Like I was chasing an ideal. I remember I had this meeting one time with this dude who was like really good at sales. This is what you do as a startup founder, is like you go and you like have all these like coffees with people and they like impart their knowledge on you. But sometimes they're just like old, stupid, random people who are not that smart, but then they like get off by telling you what to do. And so he's like giving me advice and he's like, okay, so what do you, and again, this is like, think 10 years ago, like ultimate like bro culture. He's like mentoring me and he's like, okay, close your eyes. Like, if you got everything that you wanted out of this business? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I got everything that I wanted, then it would mean like I am rich. I've like sold the company for millions of dollars. Now I have like millions of dollars in the bank. He's like, okay, so tell me what you want. And I was like, I want a modern apartment on 59th and Columbus. Like I want to live at the Time Warner Center. It's not even called that anymore. I'm so old. And it's like, I want, and he was like, great. What floor do you live on? I was like, we were literally in a hotel lobby, because again, this is what you do. You like meet people in like hotel lobbies and then they like download advice on you, but really they're kind of just like negging you the entire time. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, what do I want? I want to be on the 41st floor and I want to have an apartment. He's like, good. Do you know what you have to do next? I was like, no, what do I have to do next? He's like, pick the furniture. I'm like, pick the furniture. I'm just laughing now, but I took it so serious. I literally was like, westelm.com, let me pick the furniture for my imaginary apartment. And so this is what I was chasing, because I just didn't know. I'm trying to think, is it like, should I have said, I didn't know better, or I just think I didn't really. It's like, of course there was also a part of me during this little like coffee chat where, and it was like some insufferable hotel too. It was like the Thompson Hotel, how like they have these like really fancy hotels, like they're not even fancy though. They're like modern boutique hotels and the rooms are like this big, but they have these like expansive lobbies with like, La Colombe Cafe or whatever. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I don't know that there was a part of me during that whole thing that I was like, this dude's a douche and this is like stupid. Like, there was of course a part of me that like was like rolling my eyes and like, oh my God, tell this dude to shut up. But I think that there was an even bigger part of me that truly wanted that life and truly wanted, to pick the furniture. Sometimes people will give you bad advice. It's not even bad advice. It's just, it was not spiritually centered to who I was and like what I needed really at the time. What I probably needed at the time was a freaking vacation and was time off to reconnect and reground myself before I basically had a total stress meltdown. I mean, imagine putting that much pressure on the situation. Like, of course it's gonna blow at some point, right? Okay, so I share that so the context of like, I didn't even know it yet, but I was really yearning and searching for something. And I think these things are sort of twins, right? So like when we, like the intensity of the yearning was there, I was just yearning for the wrong thing. right? And so now that I look at it, I'm like, oh, sweetheart, like you were actually just wanting to come home. You wanted to find yourself. You wanted to find, because what does the 41st floor apartment represent? It represents the sense of like, I've made it, right? I've succeeded and everybody can see that. And now I'm lording above everybody and having this sort of like dominance. But, you know, that the yearning is correct, but the energy is misplaced. I know that now. And so I did the tarot class and like that was fine. But I personally feel that when it comes to like your spiritual unfolding, it really is like a taste test. Like you kind of have to go into a bunch of different things and that's like very normal. Okay. And I was just so exhausted. I was so tired. I actually ended up leaving that company that I had co-founded. And I was like, I just like cannot do this anymore. I drove myself into burnout and like total shutdown. I could not even function. I feel like I was so, it was like, you go to anger and then you go past anger and then you go into numbness and then you go past numbness. And then there I was like just sitting there, like I was useless. Okay. So when you're in that state, you're just like so thirsty and you're like water, water, water. Okay. So to me, I feel like the spiritual journey is like you just finding the flavor of water that you crave. And you're going to have to try a lot of different things before you actually find what works for you. And a great way to like try these things on too is to just go do it and go try it like as the client, right? And so I remember in New York, I had I worked in the fashion industry, and people in like fashion are generally very like woo-woo in a great way. And I remember there was like one dude that I had met and he was like, oh, I'm gonna go see my astrologist. And then later I'm going to see my Reiki girl. Like, you know, everybody's doing these like spiritual tune-ups. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like you have an astrology and you have like the same way that you would be like, oh, I'm going to go get my hair cut, you know, or, oh, I'm going to go see my manicurist. It's like the same thing. So he was like, oh, I'm going to go see my astrologist and then I'm going to go see my Reiki girl. And I was like, can you share? Like, can you come here? Like, can we share resources? So he gave me the name of his astrologist. He gave me the name of his Reiki person. And I just like did the rounds. And part of it was, as I described, I was like in the deep desert of hell. Like I literally was like non-functioning at that point. And so I went in as a client, like I went to see the astrologist, and at the time she was like, "Oh, you're 30, like your Saturn return." And like it was just helpful to have those frameworks, you know. But I like basically went to her. I was like miserable and crying. And then with the Reiki also, like my body was just so out of whack. I ended up like totally falling asleep during the Reiki session. And she was like, yeah, it was really cute. Like you would snore and then I'd like bring my hand closer to you and then you'd stop snoring and then I'd move it away. You'd keep snoring. And I was just like mortified that someone had witnessed me snoring. But nonetheless, I went around and I tried all of these things. I mean, I couldn't like do it a lot because it was kind of pricey. Like at the time it was, you know, $150 or like $125. And I wasn't like dropping that kind of money everywhere. But like, you know, once in a while, whenever I did have money, I was not buying anything. I was like trying services. And like, that's a clue too, right? Because that's also honestly probably kind of a weird thing to do, but it was just what I personally was interested in. And so again, like, I think you really have to look at your own behavior and be like, what are the things that I'm gravitating towards? Like, if you keep thinking about like, oh, I want to go on this writer's retreat, and it keeps like coming up, and you keep finding yourself, you know, doing a weekend here or doing a week-long thing there, like, or even like a one-off, you know, coaching session with like a book coach, or like if you keep finding yourself doing that, then like, girl, you probably are like a writer, and that's probably what you want to do. For me, I found myself just like literally I'd be on Yelp, I'd be on Google Maps, just typing in like spiritual practitioner, healer, tarot card reader, and like I would find these people, and then I would go and I would like meet with them. And like, I think on some level, what I was doing was I was also learning. I think I was also on like a learning journey. And I think anytime you have that energy, it's like very cool because it's like multiple things in one. It's your personal growth, but it's also like it's your healing, right? But I think I also was very curious about how people create spaces with clients and how people conduct healing. I think I continue to be. Like I still want to do this all the time because I'm just so curious how other people, even like how other practitioners, like how do they introduce themselves? How do they set up the space? How do they introduce the work that they're going to do, right? So I ended up seeing so many of these people, partially I think because of my own professional curiosity. I think on some level I knew one day I'm going to be the practitioner and one day I'm going to be holding space for other people. And I just wanted to like, do a test drive of like all these different practitioners to just learn from them, but also see like, what do I like that they do? What do I not like that they do? Right. So if you find yourself doing that, you're probably also on the path of a practitioner. So at this time in 2016, my husband got a new job. So we moved from New York to Denver, and trust me, I kind of wanted it. Like after all of that, like self-imposed and self-created trauma and also just plain trauma from that work experience, I also think I needed a break. I think I also was like, you know what? Moving across the country sounds good to me. And in that case, I don't think I was running away. I think that I just truly wanted a change of pace. And at the time, I just had my daughter. I have 2 kids. I just had my daughter. And I was like, we're not going to do this in New York City. Like, so the idea of like Denver and wide open spaces really appealed to me. Okay, so then I'm in Denver. I remember when I was in Denver, it just like ramped up. I think also because I was close to Boulder, and Boulder is like really a traditional hotbed of spiritual studies. And maybe this is why I like don't think it's a big deal. It's like so mainstream there that it just like it was everywhere. So again, I got to Denver, new city, still establishing myself. I'm Googling. I'm like Reiki, because I'm thinking maybe I can become a Reiki person. I don't know why that's funny to me. Like, it's not funny. I just think it's funny that I really did not know what I was talking about. And I really was like trying to grasp for anything. So I went, like, I did the Reiki thing, and it was just like, I think the other fun thing about it was like, it was just for me. And I think that's kind of what's fun about spirituality and personal growth is like, especially if you are a giver and you're always like helping other people. Like, it's so nice to have something where you're like, this is for my own betterment, my own knowledge. I also want to add to this that you want to look at your own like personal history, because like, for example, for like probably the first 30 years of my life, prioritized like business and success and like money at the forefront. So I had just finished when I was 29, I got out of business school. So business school is a 2-year master's degree. I studied at Columbia University, which is obviously, because it's in New York and with its history, relationship with Wall Street, it is like the finance school. Okay. So I'm like swimming in finance. And that was something I did to challenge myself. And I'm like really proud of myself for that. At the same time, I think I was really needing a counterbalance. I really was like, okay, I get it. Wall Street, I get it. Okay. And so I was looking for something that would be as powerful and meaningful, but on my own terms. I guess I felt like, you know what, bitches, like I already proved myself. I have nothing else to prove. Now I can just go be like my weird self. Okay. So again, I'm just out there, I'm trying things as you should be too. And then I was Googling, and I literally on Google found that, oh, in Boulder, there's this woman, she does these weekend workshops. And also, when you have young kids and you're like, oh, I can go away for a weekend to go do a workshop, like, sign me up, right? We all need a break. And so I signed up I drove to Boulder, stayed overnight at the Residence Inn for 2 nights. And then they just had it. It was like walking distance, like a little building. And it was just a room of probably 30 people, 35 people. And the instructor just led a 2.5 day workshop. Okay, so that was my first introduction to shamanism. And the thing is that I think I loved it immediately. I mean, I was like deeply uncomfortable because as much as I resisted all of like the finance bro America, I also was, I think, a little bit conditioned by that. And this was so completely different. Like, this was like within the first hour, she had us like standing on our feet and like chanting and hollering and like dancing to a drum that she was like drumming. And she was so, I think it's like when you witness someone or a group of people who are like, this is not the perfect explanation, but it was like for the first time I saw people who were no ego. I mean, there were a lot of egos, but like where they were in a trance-like state, and it, like, nobody asked me what I did for a living. Nobody asked me, oh, do you have an MBA? Like, nobody gave a shit, you know? And so I think that was really refreshing to just be like, oh, like going back to like the wild woman archetype, you know, and just being able to like let loose. And then like, of course I was self-conscious in the beginning because I was like, ooh, like, do my arms look fat or like whatever. But by the end of it, I think I loved the ability to escape into oneself and to be fully, like, it was the closest that I felt to being free in a very long time. I also liked the style of the teacher, and the way that she was like explaining things was actually very scientific and quite complex and a little bit academic, which I liked because I love a framework. And my brain was just like very tickled and very excited to be both immersed in a kind of lore about like, here's how the shamanic journey works, and you know, but then also the somatic part of it, which was like, okay, get up on your feet, like stand up, like pound the drum, run around, you know. And it just was, it felt like such it was very immersive, and it felt like such personal work, especially because we got to like, we were doing partner work immediately. And I think it was so nice to just meet people and be able to immediately dive into like, not the story of like, hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm from here and no, it was just like, you know, immediately to be like, okay, let me journey for you, and then let me see what your power animal is, and then to come back and be like, oh, it's this animal, and then for the person to be like, oh my God, that animal has so much significance to me because when I was younger, you know. So it's like we skipped an entire it's almost like you skipped an entire 5 hours of like introductory bullshit, and you just were able to like dive into it quite deep with other people. So I walked away from that weekend and I was just like, you know what? That shit was cool. And I also think like from a, if you guys are doing this, like from a spiritual perspective, there are truly some things that you are incredibly gifted at that you don't even know. Okay. So like, it makes so much sense to me now, because now I can look back and be like, of course I'm good at shamanic journeying. It's a meditative trance-like state that allows you to transcend and exist in multiple planes. And like, what did I do as a child? All I did was exist in multiple places. All I did as a kid was play make-believe. I honestly think that's like what I'm doing on YouTube right now, is like, this is all make-believe, you know? And I'm good. Like I'm good at that. I'm good at seeing the unseen. I'm good at like seeing the invisible. I do that in my coaching. So like this all gelled for me in a way that like maybe the Reiki didn't, you know? Or like it gelled for me in a way that like the tarot for me was great, but it wasn't like my thing. And I think the lesson that I'll just kind of share is like, I do believe that there is a thing out there for you. And it's just a matter of playing and trying things. And they're all connected. Okay. They all share a similar spiritual thread. Okay. So like when I was doing the Reiki, the instructor did like a sound bath and asked me to close my eyes and see what animal I saw. Very similar to a power animal, you know, connecting to the spirit of an animal in shamanism. So you arrive at the same place, different pathways, different ways of arrival, but same energetic place. So I think that there are like energetic signatures to things, and it's just your job, you know, it's actually your joy and your duty to go around and find what your thing is, because ultimately when you find that thing and when you know, dedicate time and study on it and become immersed in it, that the number one benefactor to that is you. Yes, the side benefit is if you want to help clients, you can do that. The side benefit is it provides you a structural understanding or a sort of paradigm for the world. Great. But mostly the number one person who benefits from this shit is you. Like, it's you. So I just think it's like a win-win all around. Okay, that's it for today. I just thought I'd share a little bit. Let me know if y'all have any questions, where you are in your spiritual journey, what's going on, what drew you to this video. If you want a follow-up, let me know. Drop it in the comments. You know, I'm always lurking in those comments, so please, thank you. Okay, finally, if you've made it this far, I did want to give a little update on the members program, which is still, it's like alive and kicking, guys, and I'm still absolutely loving it. We are up to 78 members as of today. Today is what? Today is Wednesday, June 11th. Okay. All right. So you may have heard in previous videos, you guys know I send out physical thank you gifts to members who are at the $5.99 tier or above. Okay. I've sent out 45 of these so far. About 8 of which have been international shipments. And I said in a previous video, I was like, I don't even care. Like, I'll just send it. I don't even care. Okay. So slight revision on that. I do care. My husband was like, you are losing so much money. I was like, I know. What do I do about that? He's like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know either. Here's what I've come up with. I want to keep doing it. I'm going to, if you are international, okay, we're at 78 members right now, up to 100 members. Okay, I will continue to do the international shipments. So I'm assuming, I don't know, there might be 3 or 4 that trickle in, you know, up till we get to 100. Okay. At that point, I'm then going to switch gears and I'm going to figure out some kind of digital thank you gift for you guys. Let me think about it. It's going to be cute. I don't know what it is yet, but it does get pricey. I'm shipping to Europe. I'm shipping to Asia. Every time I go to the post office, they're like, that'll be $28. And I'm like, okay. So I'm also like trying to be generous, but I'm also trying to like manage my business. So I'll do, you know, however many international more come until we get to 100. Then it'll be like, oh, for the first 100, you know, whether or not you were international, I'm still shipping you a thing. Okay, please, like that. If I did ship it to you, please, this is not meant to be feel guilty at all. Like, I love you guys. Like, I love doing it. I just also have to be like practical. But we'll do that. Okay, and as a reminder, if you become a member, what you get is there are a ton of behind the scenes, like members only videos. I would also say like another benefit is not only are you supporting the channel and me, meaning, guys, I just got like 5 more requests in my inbox being like, please sponsor. Like there's this one system that was like, we think that your audience, high performing, high achieving professionals who are into technology, would be a great fit. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that would be a great fit. I don't want to be talking about that. So it supports the channel, meaning I then don't need to do sponsorships with bad companies and waste everybody's time. Okay. I'm not going to call it bad company, but like companies that clearly are just focused on the ROI of this audience, and I don't want to monetize it in that way. But also I really do feel like we are building a community. I post a lot in there. I ask members only questions. I get feedback from you guys. It's just a way for me to talk directly with you, to hear what you're feeling. And it's like, you guys are the OGs. I don't know how else to say it. Like I love the members. I try to respond as much as I can to their comments. I take their feedback very seriously. You get a cute gift in the mail, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Okay. Bye.